It's like we're stuck. You know, like a needle on a scratch record.
It's one of those infinite time loop situations you might have heard about.
It's a thing where the same day keeps happening?
I wake up every day right here, right in Punxsutawney, and it's always February 2nd.
Time. I promise to explain everything later, but I need you to trust me.
Slow down! What are you, in a damn time loop or something?
I am this story's writer. I'm barely scraping by. I wake up every morning. I tell myself to try. I say no compromises. I claim to have a plan. It's about to get inaccurate for me. So, today I edited last week's episode. That is the episode about a strange loop, or about strange loops. And coincidentally, tonight, I got to see a strange loop again. It closes this weekend, but I was still entered in the lottery tickets for it, so for $20, I got to sit in the second row. Last week when my daughter and I saw it, we were in the balcony, so it was a much different experience. And I already loved it. The lyrics I was just reading to start were from the last song, the finale. I might read some more in a moment, but hey. It's Groundhog Day. Again. And that must mean that I am still Professor Robert E.G. Black. And I realized editing last week's episode that I neglected to include a specific angle on a thing, and I wanted to talk about it, and I didn't know how I'd fit it into whatever the next episode was actually going to be, so I figured I'd just do another episode where I'm just talking. Because who the fuck cares? I don't have to talk directly about Groundhog Day for this to be about Groundhog Day, because Groundhog Day is a metaphor. I was reaching up to grab Paul Hannum's book, Magic of Groundhog Day. To get it, no camera so you can't see this, but to get it I had to pull down a flask that sits up here. It was a souvenir flask. I've never actually used it to drink out of. It was from Hadestown, another musical I love. Recent musical I love. Jumping in from editing, because if you're new to this show and new to my shows generally, you should know that I referenced Hadestown several times on a show called Annihilation Minute, where I looked at annihilation 1 minute at a time, and it was very dense and philosophical and thoughtful and a lot. But if you need something else to listen to. And it says on there a toast to the world we dream about and the one we live in now. There was a line in the description of last week's episode, something about finding meaning in a world increasingly meaningless. And I feel like that's how I feel. A lot. Because we have a world where criminals and tyrants and greedy assholes are the ones in charge. The ones with all the power, with all the money. Are there some nice people who end up getting money through unusual circumstances? Absolutely. Does it corrupt them? Probably. Or maybe always, I don't know. The thing I forgot last week, though, before I get to Paul Hannum, nothing has to go in order. Nothing has to make sense. It's all one big loop, anyhow. It's all one big crapshoot, anywho. I was talking about my love for movies from when I was very young. My love for fiction. In case you skipped the hour-long episode, you dick. That was also in relation to my lack of love for the religion in which I grew up. That in retrospect, I feel like my experience of religion was just another fiction. And it wasn't a fiction that was particularly nice. I grew up in a church that worked like a cult. And it was the 80s, so it was the end of the Cold War, except we didn't know it was the end of the Cold War. Watching movies when I'm a child like The Day After, or Threads, or post-apocalyptic science fiction, what have you, like Mad Max or Terminator. And there was so much wrong with the future. I don't mean the fictional future. I mean the future that was presented as it was going to be real. The future that was presented as this is what is going to happen. If you don't buy into this religion, if you aren't fully invested by the time the world ends and Jesus returns and all that bullshit, you're gonna burn in a lake of fire. If you gotta hold a lake of fire over my head to get me to do the right thing, your religion sucks. I can appreciate a religious person if they buy into their religion and they live by its actual prescriptions, but I don't know that many. Part of the end of A Strange Loop, the musical, is that the main character of Usher creates a gospel play for his mother, because that's what she wants, because he's writing a musical about a young gay black man, writing a musical about a young gay black man and all that. But his gospel play, the only way he can write it is to make it offensive and wrong, and it becomes an attack on her, and you feel for a moment like she gets it and realizes the struggle he's going through in his life, until it turns out no, she doesn't get it. She thinks he's struggling because he chose the wrong lifestyle. Not that he's struggling because she has constantly been telling him that he chose the wrong lifestyle. And I feel like that's gospel play it's over the top, and it's funny because it's over the top, and it's sad when it gets farther along because you realize it's over the top because he's in pain. And you should know by this part of the play that he's in pain, that his life is a struggle, and that his parents are problematic, and society is fucking problematic. The world presented to me when I was a child was a world that was going to burn. And if I didn't buy in fully into religion in time, I was going to burn too. And at a certain point, I just didn't care. Add to that, I'm autistic and I have ADHD, and I always forget what it stands for. PDA, not public display of affection. Something means you don't do what you're told, and someone tells you to do something, you want to not do it. Why can I never remember what the acronym stands for? I don't know. Where was I? Sometimes I feel so ugly, sometimes I feel so smart. Some people stand together, me, well, I stand apart. I don't think I'm ugly on a literal level. On a literal level. I mean, I'm overweight, but otherwise I'm not ugly. As a person, I'm not particularly ugly either on the inside. But I don't know that the world would agree. One of the curses of being autistic is that people form snap judgments about you when they meet you, and most of them won't want much to do with you. Except under the right circumstances, or if they themselves are autistic, then they might be more inclined. But it doesn't even mean that either of you know it. It's just what happens. I am... I was going to say alone a lot. But literally, as I'm recording this, I'm alone. I'm the only one home. My wife and my kids are out of town until tomorrow. There was a cat in the room a moment ago eating some food, but I think they left and went upstairs. So it's just me and you, listener. Imaginary listener. My point to saying I'm alone a lot of the time is I do things by myself, and for the most part, I'm good with it. I mean, I don't need to watch a movie with someone else. I do like talking about movies, and I love conversation about movies. But I've been alone a lot of my life. I was the only boy in a family with 6 girls. I went to a private school, so my potential circle of friends was limited. And then I dropped out of college after 2 years, worked office jobs, and I got along okay with some people I worked with here and there. I worked at a movie theater for a while, 6 months in 1995. I had some good friends there, but they're the kind of good friends who worked at movie theaters and liked movies, and so we had good conversations. I've got nerdy acquaintances. I've got Movies by Minutes friends who do podcasts like this, where we talk about movies in way too much detail. I am destroying that format once again because PDA, what does that stand for? Now I have to know because I just used it again. pathological demand avoidance. It's a rare behavioral phenotype of autism spectrum disorder that's characterized by an extreme need to avoid demands. Yeah, that's me. I don't want people to tell me what to do. I don't want my Bible class teacher to ask me to write an essay about why I believe in God and then reject my answer, even though it was the truth. I usually say I don't have any friends, but I told that to a therapist once and then described the people I was playing D&D with. Wait, that doesn't make sense. I couldn't have been a therapist. I wasn't seeing a therapist while playing D&D. It's all lumped together. Who fucking cares? But talking to someone, and the things I would do with friends, the D&D people that we, aside from playing Dungeons and Dragons, we had other game nights where we'd play other board games together. We went to Ren Fair together. We went to, I forget what it was called, Pirate Attack or something like that. It was like Ren Fair but pirate themed down in Long Beach. We went to Medieval Times. We did a bunch of escape rooms. We went to the Science Museum together. We went out to eat, out to drink. It's weird. I feel like having friends should be more than that, but I think that's what most people mean when they have friends. But then that D&D campaign ended and I barely have contact with any of those people. Friends with a few of them on Facebook, follow a few of them on Instagram, but I think I'm the one who posts the most of any of them, and I don't post that much. Anyway, I wanted to get to the magic of Groundhog Day as well. Trust me, it all relates. His definition of what he calls the Groundhog Day effect. A phenomenon that affects individuals, groups, organizations, and human civilization itself. Fuck. I forgot that he put it on more than just people. For many, this is the daily grind of endlessly repetitive tasks, mind-numbing encounters with the same people, and meaningless activities and conversations. This effect keeps us feeling stuck and powerless to change. By recognizing and understanding how our repetitive patterns of thought and action produce those negative feelings, we understand why change is so difficult. That wasn't the paragraph I was looking for, but I noticed that one. There's the one I'm looking for. The Groundhog Day effect is largely caused by our unique set of behavioral and thought patterns, which create our personal reality. We do not directly experience the world around us. We experience a personal reality through our senses. Personal reality is a reflection of reality, not reality itself. So in effect, there are two realities. The reality of what is, the real world, and the world as we see it, our personal reality. We might not repeat the exact day over and over again in our outer lives, yet our personal reality can effectively create the same day again and again in our inner lives. I worked office jobs in the 90s. Trust me, I know. Repetitive day-to-day job. There's more from Paul Hannum that I'd like to use in this show sometime. Back to A Strange Loop. This is the beginning of Memory Song, a little bit of dialogue. Usher. Okay, I got this. So if Usher's sense of self is just a bunch of meaningless symbols in his brain, moving from one level of abstraction to another, but ending up back where they started, then his perception of mom and dad and everything else are realities that will never change until he changes. So what are the implications of that for Usher? And what does that make me? Finding meaning in an increasingly meaningless world. Oof. It's war and genocide, and people defend these things. Police violence and brutality, and people defend these things. Laws passed just to oppress trans people and queer people, and people defend these things. And for what? I said this at some point last week. I think it was in that recording, the long one. Might have been an earlier one. I edited 3 different things today. Of course, people who claim to have religious beliefs have to put those on other people because it's the only way they can justify them as being real. Of course, people have to be Zionists and support Israel because it's the only way they can claim they're Christian. This is America. We're all supposed to be good, God-fearing Christians and all that bullshit. And I'm increasingly cynical, increasingly pessimistic, but I'm also optimistic about life. Like, I've been writing again and thinking about writing again, even more than writing again. I need to do more writing again. and not just think about writing again. But it makes me feel good to do either. It makes me feel good to be doing a podcast or two on a regular basis again. And being able to do episodes like this, or like when I was doing my blog, and if I barely mentioned Groundhog Day, that was a good blog entry. I didn't need to talk just about what's on screen. I don't need to do, this week is minute 5, next week minute 6, or do multiple episodes a week, so I'm covering multiple minutes and getting done with the movie in a matter of months. This loop goes on forever. The blog, this show, and if I could figure out how to fund it, I would love to make my documentary. Those of you listening, hey, if you got access to producer kind of money, I'll say the idea, just a little elevator pitch. I haven't prepared this, so basically the idea is the Groundhog Day Project. That's the title. What you do is you go to different cities, different kinds of environments, rural neighborhoods and urban neighborhoods, rent out a theater, screen Groundhog Day, interview people from the audience afterward. That's it. I had a little bit more complicated version of it where there were questionnaires that specifically ask if you're in like a Christian neighborhood, how is this a Christian film? If you're in a Jewish neighborhood, how is this a Jewish film? But I don't think you need all that. I think you're going to get people thinking about their choices and thinking about their lives, I hope. Unfortunately, I think most people don't think about their choices and don't think about their lives because most people just go through day to day, and as long as they're able to numb themselves with television and alcohol and so-called friends and entertainment, sports and movies and TV and books and everything else. What else is there? I just included movies and books and TV, and I'm like, that's what I enjoy. So fuck that. But I think people don't think too hard about a lot of this stuff. Or they do think too hard about this stuff. And they all get stuck in these circles and cycles and loops of being stuck the way they are. What's the French line? Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. Yeah. More things change, the more they stay the same. Also, the more things stay the same, the more they change. I like life. What I mean is, as I said, I feel good about my life these days. I don't feel good about the world around it. What's the point? Oh, I never even got to the thing I forgot. It has to do with loving movies and TV and fiction, books, whatever. Role-playing books like the Lone Wolf books that I was talking about last week that I had to get rid of and then I just bought again and read through again because PDA, pathological demand avoidance. See, I was stuck on the word persistent, which is why I think I can never remember it. Time loops. Strange loops. Repetition of ideas, repetition of experiences. Whether it's a Groundhog Day effect or something more positive, everything repeats. And something that's great about your favorite movie, your favorite TV show, your favorite book, is when you finish watching it or reading it, if you didn't get the happy ending you wanted, you could start over. If you did get the happy ending and there was so much joy because the story earned it and you loved it and the character you cared about got what they needed and what they wanted, then you can start over. You can watch that movie again, watch that TV show again, read that book again. Or watch another, or read another. Because there are all these worlds out there and everyone's so stuck on fighting over this one, pretending like each of us are the problem when it's like rich people and tyrant government assholes. That's why Groundhog Day works. Though I, for a long time, didn't like calling it my favorite movie or one of my favorite movies. It definitely belongs on the list because it is a movie that can... It's 80s style comedy, which is a little problematic here and there. One of my examples of the potential mean-spiritedness of when Phil should know better is when he hugs Ned and holds him a little too close and Ned runs away.
Phil? Phil Connors? I thought it was you.
Ned Ryerson.
Yes.
I have missed you so much. I don't know where you're headed, but can you call in sick?
I gotta get going. It's good to see you, Phil.
They don't think Phil should be doing that at that point in the loop. I think he should be doing better. That's the kind of thing he should have been doing earlier. But Groundhog Day is about an asshole who figures out how not to be an asshole, but we love assholes. This was a whole thread in my blog at one point, is how much we love stories about assholes. How much we love people that are assholes. We love a politician because he says it like it is. He's not afraid to speak his mind. Never mind that the things he thinks, the things that are on his mind are offensive, bigoted, racist, misogynist, genocidal, what have you. Presidential debate, the first one was tonight. I inadvertently saw a few minutes of it. Inadvertently is a funny word for it, because I chose it. I had about 20 minutes till I was planning to leave to go see A Strange Loop. And I was like, okay, I'm going to watch an episode of Adventure Time and then go. So I switch over to Max, and it's like, watch the debate. And it was literally like a few minutes after 6. The debate had just started. So I turned it on. And immediately regretted it. Trump, all hyped up on whatever drugs he's taken, is just lying and changing the subject on every question. Biden looks like he's barely alive, and he shouldn't be running for re-election, and Trump shouldn't be running for being elected again, and this country needs to do better, or this country needs to fail. Because we're just treading water. Or half of us are treading water at any time while the other half are throwing things at us, trying to make us lose our stroke and sink and die. And sometimes I really don't understand it. And I don't know if those times are better or worse than the times I do understand it. Why people are the way people are. But it all comes down to things that you can't even necessarily control in the present. If you're an adult, if you're Phil Connors, stuck in, you thought I was going to say Punxsutawney, stuck in a job you don't like in Pittsburgh. I said this in the blog once. I'm not going to find the entry now, but I will get to it at some point. It was a line I was particularly proud of. Although I think even it borrowed a phrasing, or not phrasing, but a vague notion from someone else. I don't remember who. Phil wasn't trapped in Punxsutawney. He was trapped in Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, he had a job that he didn't like. He thought it was beneath him. And he took it out on everyone around him. He mocked people. He insulted people. We don't get this in the movie, but we do get it in the script, that he seduced the PAs and the interns at the station. As I said last week or the week before, he probably went out to bars regularly and picked up women who he had no intention of calling the next day because his life was empty. There's a romanticization of the rural to Groundhog Day, but it's not necessarily about the rural, the thing that matters, but it is finding community, and finding a community that makes your corner of the world better. And a community that makes the rest of the world better. Far too often people find a community that is damaging. They don't want to admit it to themselves that it's damaging them, but it's damaging other people and it's damaging the world. And I did get into politics in my blog for a little bit. I remember I was getting quite angry. I think this was in 2016 when Trump was about to get elected. I think that was the timing of it. And there was a month, I believe it was July, where I was writing about politics and movies that had political angles or something. And then I switched it and I said, no, I'm not doing this. I am going to make my corner of the world better for me. So I watched better movies. I changed the angle. I watched, in particular, the movie I watched the second most times for the blog is Sing Street. I forget how many times it was, but I watched it every day for like a couple weeks, I think it was. Because that movie is sad, but it happy. It's happy sad. Just insert the clip here. You know what to do. Editor me.
Your problem is that you're not happy being sad. But that's what love is, Cosmo. Happy sad.
What does she mean by that?
Well, I think what she means is that you need to reach a place in your life where you're okay with your sadness. It's pretty high concept stuff. How old did you say she was again?
16.
It's monastic. She's like a monk.
It's a long bit of silence. It's late at night. I don't normally record late at night. It's like almost midnight. It's actually an okay time for recording because I can talk and I'm not coughing. If I record in the morning, which is usually the easiest time to record when I'm not working in the morning, I have trouble talking for too long without I'll start coughing. My asthma kicks in and it doesn't go well. Right now I'm good. The day has happened and I've been okay. I didn't watch any movies today, but that's okay. I watched 3 yesterday and 3 the day before. I might be going to see one in the theater tomorrow, maybe. Maybe watch another one tomorrow night, or 2. But even that is me looping. It's not the same movie over and over and over, but it is movie. But it also is a good thing because it helps with my ADHD. If I have this list of slasher films, I can just be like, I don't know what I feel like watching, so I'm going to watch the next slasher on the list. In a couple months, I'm going to run out of those. And then I have to watch the rest of the movies on my watch list. And that's misleading to say watch list singular because you got my Prime watch list, which has way too many movies on it. My Netflix watch list, which actually doesn't have that many movies on it. My Hulu Disney Plus watch list, which only has a few movies. My Max watch list, which I think only has a few movies. But altogether, my watch list, if you want to call it singular, has dozens of movies on it. And by dozens, I mean a lot of dozens. Trying to think of a way to exaggerate in a different way, but I think my Amazon Prime watch list has like 60 movies on it right now. Jumping in from editing because I was curious, so I went to my Prime list and tried to count them, but the list was kind of long, so I may have lost my place a couple times, so this is approximate. It is not 60, it is 105. And that's just on Amazon Prime. Whew. And I've been mostly watching slasher films for months. Just because it was easy. Because movies are contained. I don't have to stress about them. I can, during. But you know what happens when the movie's over? That stress can go away. Or that stress turns into an inspiration for writing something, or talking about something, or doing something. When I watched Groundhog Day every day for a year, there was a point in that year where I got tired of that movie. But I still watched it. I found other things to write about. I found angles to write that worked. And then I circled back around to the point where it was like a friend, a loved one. It was something so familiar to me. Like I knew every angle of it. It was an intimate relationship, me and Groundhog Day. So now we don't spend as much time together, Groundhog Day and I. But when we do hang out, we do okay. Because we know each other. Groundhog Day knows me. I know Groundhog Day. And I still find new things in it from time to time, which is fantastic. Just like life. You want to keep finding new things. Anyway, I don't want to go for too much longer. I'm good. I just felt like talking. No one's home. So you, listener, had to put up with me. So, a toast to the world we dream about and the one we live in now.
You were gonna say that.
This has been a production of Lemming Drops Studio. You can find links to more at lemmingdrops.com or join the Facebook group Lemming Drops Studio Tour. Also, you can support all my shows at patreon.com/lemmingdrops.
What is wrong in the end which never comes? Or it comes again and again, lapping, like waves.
Since the Big Bang set everything in motion, everything that happens in this universe has to be the way it is. Particles unfolding the way they're destined to.
How do you sleep at night? You've never seen Groundhog Day?
Yeah, you know Groundhog Day is not a documentary.